Do you want to know something completely insane? I'm gonna make a statement which is probably gonna be too difficult for the most of you to accept. The statement is this: our negative emotions are not really negative. In a scientific intervention, the students appearing for a practice GRE test, which is an entrance exam, were given a message prior to the test to change their perspective towards the stress they were experiencing of the exam. The message was this: people think that feeling anxious while taking a standardized test will make them do poorly. However, recent research suggests that stress doesn't really hurt performance on these tests and can even help performance. People who feel anxious during a test might actually do better. This means that you shouldn't feel concerned if you do feel anxious while taking today's test. If you find yourself feeling anxious, simply remind yourself that your stress could be helping you do well. The students who received such message outperformed the students who received no such message. But there's more. Among the students who received such message, a higher stress level was associated with a higher test score. But that's not it. The message was given before to a practice test, which was actually prior to the actual GRE. And over the next 3 months, the students who received the said message before the practice test again outperformed the students who received no such message. But what was it about this message that it made it so powerful that even after 3 months of receiving this message, it still affected the result of students positively? It was their changed perspective towards their negative emotions. We have this tendency to categorize emotions into positive and negative. The happiness, joy, laughter, pleasure, pride, gratitude goes into the positive compartment, whereas sorrow, anger, fear, shame, jealousy are shunned into the negative compartment. But there's a reason evolution gave us these emotions. Let's suppose if you're walking with your family and some random dude comes and acts inappropriately with them. How would you feel? You better feel anger and set things right. Or if you're walking and suddenly a snake comes in your path. Or even 10 random buff dudes approach you angrily. You better feel fear, which prepares you to run and save yourself. Each and every one of our emotions serve an evolutionary purpose. Evolution isn't stupid to give us emotions that are meaningless. Even if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, spiritual teachers have been asking us to change our outlook towards our emotion. Rumi said, a joy, a depression, a meanness, welcome them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door and invite them in. Each has been sent as a guide from beyond. From Osho. You feel fear, which is an experiential reality. It is there. You can reject it, but by rejecting it, you'll be repressing it. You are behaving like an ostrich. You cannot do anything about it by denying it. By denying it, you create a problem. Let's look at another study. This experiment is so stressful that even if I take you and drop you from a plane and measure your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, it would still be lower than if you participated in this experiment. It's called the peer social stress test. But before that, don't you think it is too easy for me to talk about all this in the comfort and safety of my room? Let's change that. Fuck. The experiment is this. You enter a room with only 3 minutes to prepare a speech before a panel of experts in communication skills and behavioral analysis. The experts are not really experts, but are rather instructed to give negative feedback to the participants like frowning, shaking head in disappointment, rolling eyes, crossing their arms, to stare without emotion, and even interrupt the participants to tell how poorly they are doing. The participants are divided into 3 groups, and one of such groups were helped to rethink the stress they were experiencing. And it ended with a message: when you feel anxious or stressed, think about how your stress response could actually be helping you. Each participant was filmed and later observed and analyzed by an unbiased observer. The participants who received the above message were rated to be overall more confident and more effective. They made more eye contact, their body language was more confident, they smiled more, they showed fewer signs of anxiety and shame. Essentially, they gave flat out better speeches. This is exactly what I did before filming here in public. This is my first time recording in a crowded place and I am super anxious. But I tried to interpret my anxiety as something that helped me and prepared me to record this. So how can we start utilizing these negative emotions that we experience to empower us rather than them inhibiting us? That's damn fucking good. The exact things you can tell yourself to get empowered by your negative emotions, you can find it in the What's in it for me section at the end of the video. When we experience certain negative emotions, we notice our body changing its physiology. We might start to breathe heavy, or maybe our heart starts to beat faster, or maybe we get these knots in our stomach. The first step is to notice these and interpret these signs in our body as our body getting ready for action. This is the best way to channel the energy that these negative emotions provide us instead of getting worried about them, which actually inhibits our performance. Let's face it, negative emotions are uncomfortable. I mean, they're meant to be. But what we are aiming for is a sense of being okay with the discomfort. Relaxing in the face of such discomfort trains us to be okay with it.
Always getting comfortable with negative emotions might work with only normal negative emotions, right?
One thing I forgot to tell you about the stress test was that half of the participants in the test suffered from social anxiety disorder, which are people that are so anxious that they often avoid any social interaction just to avoid the anxiety they feel. And with interpreting their anxiety as something that empowers them, they were able to perform and deliver speeches which were more like the participant who didn't suffer from social anxiety disorder. Isn't that isn't that amazing? I want you to think of how trying to avoid our negative emotions has hindered us from doing the things that we truly want to do and achieving the things that we want to achieve. Now, I want you to imagine this. Even though negative emotions are still uncomfortable, you are not afraid to face them, and rather, you see the power and boost they provide you, which in turn helps you to perform better. How will that transform your approach to life? What new things would you be willing to do which you were too reluctant to do before just to avoid the emotional discomfort? I really believe in the power of this message. So give it a try and let me know what you think.
What's in it for me?
The goal we're trying to aim for: to get comfortable with our negative emotions so that we don't end up crafting a life avoiding them at all costs. Summary: negative emotions serve a purpose, and research after research shows that changing our perspective towards such emotions help us utilize their power, as opposed to when we try to fight them away and they hinder our performance. The concrete action steps I think would help us reach there. Whenever you notice yourself getting in a stressful state with symptoms like heavy heart beating, heavy breaths, knots in a stomach, or even sweaty palms, don't worry about making them go away. Instead, just focus on how these are your body's way of you getting ready for action. You can literally say this to yourself: I'm getting excited, my body is getting ready to perform and face this challenge.